Hello, what's up guys? This is Jouni Juurela from Floorball Made Simple, and today we will talk about great offensive zone offense play, and this video will provide to you players and coaches and teams and clubs good tips on how offensive zone offense can be organized and what phenomena are happening in the top floorball today on offensive zone offense. By no means this will be a video that will give you absolute truths that you will always get a scoring chance by playing this, but this is more of explaining the characteristics and the most repetitive models that the top teams are utilizing. So the best offensive zone offense will roughly create three things and actions to the field. First of all, it is meant to score a lot of goals. So best offensive zone offense is able to move the ball around in such way that you are able to create very good quality scoring area scoring chances. The second most important thing is from the perspective of winning big games is that you have a good balance to defend while you are attacking in the offensive zone. So if you want to win those tough games, the number of bad turnovers that you allow the opposition to have, that is a key factor on winning big floorball games. And third important factor is how often are you able to shift with the ball with your team, so that you go to the offensive zone, you get few scoring chances. If you are unable to score, then you throw the ball back to your own end and then shift with the ball and then head back to the offensive zone. So roughly put, all these three factors are key success components on offensive zone offense. I mentioned about the balance to defend when you are attacking in the offensive zone offense. What are the biggest risk factors then in each of those situations? If you have too many attackers or too many players too high up the pitch at the same time, and then a player makes a too brave decision with the ball, either by passing or then challenging with the ball to the core. If too many players are positioned too high, that will encounter a huge turnover into your own end. If you have too many movement directions to the opponent's goal, that is basically the same thing. But if you have very much players that are moving with high speed and high movement momentum to the opposing team's end, if they can get a interception from that, you have many players that are playing themselves out of the situation and you get a bad turnover from that. It is all about finding big enough time windows and spaces to perform the desired action. So if you are making some choices with the ball right over there in a too risky manner that you are not able to recognize those optimal times and spaces and lanes in the field, but just jam the ball, rush it to the spaces before there is an opportunity to do so, that will cause some turnovers as well. And then the central support is actually the most important plug in your defensive balance in the offensive zone, because if you have positioned a player in the core, in the center of the pitch, if the opponent gets a turnover, they cannot at least progress through the center because that is occupied. So it is really important factor. And then having the opposite side with direction available at all times is really important, so you can escape the press if you are being forced to play under pressure. So you need to have that direction available at all times. Then a few words about increasing the likelihood of scoring, because the positioning of your whole 5-player unit over there is crucial one on that, and the attackers without the ball can either increase or decrease the likelihood of scoring. If you have a player occupying that upper gap in the center near the player that is responsible for the center defense in the defensive zone, if you have player right over there, that increases the likelihood of scoring by very big margins. If you have also a back post threat or a threat near the goal and a player positioned near the opponent's goalie, that increases by quite a bit also the likelihood of scoring. If you can shoot from those diagonal shooting angles to the goal, then it is more likely that there is more feet and sticks and bodies of your own teammates and the opposing team's players in front of the goalie. So there will be distraction for the goalie, and there will be some points for deflection balls as well. And if you are able to pass the ball horizontally over the middle line, if you cut the offensive zone into two halves, if you are able to progress with a wide pass or a horizontal pass through that middle line, that doubles up your likelihood of scoring. And yeah, I remember a time when this 1-3-1 formation was a really trendy thing in floorball about 5 to 10 years ago. Almost standing still in such formation was enough to create scoring chances from offensive zone offense. So teams used to go in that 1-3-1 formation and then almost blindfoldedly pass the ball to the width and then pass it back to the center, and you almost automatically had a scoring chance. But then the defensive teams got better and they began to organize a counter formation for that sort of attacking while they were defending. And now that sort of just only standing in 1-3-1, that is nowhere near enough to provide good scoring chances. This is still a good goal and attempt to have momentarily, but you need to be able to rotate and shift your positions and move around the pitch in order that that formation is created by motion. And no player can be drilled from their feet to the floor. They need to fill those same positions through motions, either to the center or to the back post. No one can just stand still statically right over there anymore. Few words about this slide briefly. You can pause this presentation and look at all the sentences by yourself, but the opponent's formation, how they are organizing the defensive zone defense, always matters. That do you have a direct scoring chance available? For example, if the opponent is defending with a 2-1-2 formation in their own defensive zone, then using that 1-3-1 formation could provide you a direct scoring chance just by moving the ball, because there is that is not matched, because there is an unmatched situation. Not all of your players will be marked, and it is impossible to mark them by using a 2-1-2 formation. If you're using a 1-3-1 formation for attack and the opposing team is organizing a 1-2-2 defense or 1-3-1 defense, then that is a counter formation for your formation, and only by standing still right over there, that does not create any direct threat. So you need to take into account how they are defending their own zone. If they are using this trendy half player oriented and half zone oriented way, where the three lowest players of the defense are starting from a zone, but they are moving around with their player all the sides of the pitch, you can then empty those spaces and then bring new ones into those spaces. So you need to know how the opposing team is defending. And here are the scoring areas in floorball these days. This is a few years old statistic, but those numbers have remained, and the main scoring areas have remained almost the same. And the main areas have remained exactly the same. In hockey, it is called that the first goal scoring sector is right over there near the goal, so front of the net. In floorball, in the other hand, it is a different case. The sector number 1, where most goals are scored, is somewhere where the opponent's center would be defending, so little further away from the goal, in each sides of the center. That is the number 1 goal scoring area on floorball. Number 2 goal scoring area is there right in front of the net, which was number 1 goal scoring area in hockey, but in floorball that is number 2. And the third most likely place to score in floorball is in those width sides near the first sector, near the sort of height where the opposing team's center would play, but in both outer flanks. Shooting from those angles is the number 3 goal scoring area on floorball. Then what are the characteristics of great OZO offensive zone offense that the top level teams of floorball are using? Well, it begins by the attackers without the ball are winning their markers without the ball. So they are moving, they are doing these give and goes, pass and moves, or they position themselves somewhere in the outer flanks and then start to run and sprint towards the net, and they are trying to get to the backside of their marker. They create multiple scoring chances within the same offensive zone offense shift. So if you are creating like 4 to 5 goal scoring chances per one shift in the offensive zone, that is way better than only to contribute one goal scoring chance. So top teams are able to create consecutive many scoring chances within the same shift. They are able to maintain the offensive pressure for a long time during their shift, which means that they attempt to go to the core, to the biggest goal scoring areas in floorball, and they are able to keep the pressure on there. They're not letting the pressure to slip away, and they are not going back to the middle zone, but rather they are sticking in the offensive zone and cranking up the pressure throughout every second. They are moving the ball faster than the defense can keep up, so their actions while they are attacking is higher than the actions than the defensive team, and their actions are faster. The top teams have lots of different kind of rotations, and they are changing their positionings and how they are occupying the spaces. They are changing those quite rapidly, and there are many tools on doing those rotations. They can force the blockers into big knee angles, so they are forcing the blockers and defenders to drop into low playing position, which is way more consuming and brings lactic acids to their thighs and legs. They can make minimum of 2 to 3 scoring threats in all moments, which means that you do not have a solo player that is dangerous with the ball. They have continuity and at least 1 or 2 guys in addition to them that are direct scoring threats, so the attackers without the ball provide threat on scoring. And lastly, they are able to find cutting passes that break the formation, and people are able to score from those, and those passes are played into different directions. And here is just one example of how you can develop the offensive zone, and you can read these by yourself. We're not going to go through this whole list at this point, but we will go rather through every single point individually. But the last sentence that you need to have in your mind, that how are you going to create the overload against somebody in the field, and against who of those defenders are you creating an overload right over there in the offensive zone offense. So the first one is quite basic. So you need to get into the offensive zone first, of course, to be providing threat and scoring chances in there. So you need to get into the deep areas of the field. If your game opening or middle zone offense doesn't provide a scoring chance, or a scoring chance didn't occur, then you need to find the continuity to the offensive zone and depth of the field through passing to those deep areas or carrying the ball to the deep areas. And then to get sort of the mill going again and drilling that defense, you need to get the ball moving horizontally behind the net, for example, through carrying the ball or through passing the ball behind the goal line. And you need to be able to provide that width support into the play, and that needs to be very clear, that how are you able to create that continuity and direction to the width, and you need to do that with the own principles and tactics and ways to operate that fit to your team and are familiar to your team, but that needs to be crystal clear. How are you going to get the mill going? Second one is about utilizing the blue line and the spaces in the blue line, because Once you have arrived to the offensive zone and you have gotten those first passes in there to your teammates, the opposition team has also dropped to their defensive zone defense and they are organized. If you are not able to utilize that unorganized moment of the play, then you need to be able to find those bigger spaces in the field. If you get stuck to the corners, the defensive team will have an edge on that situation. So if you want to find the biggest spaces, those are in the blue line, and many top teams are utilizing those rather well. So if you are attempting to play the ball to the blue line, you can drop the ball from the corner with a pass directly without carrying it for a bit, or you can drive with the ball, for example, to the center of the pitch and then pass to the blue line. And you must always have a threat to score without the drop pass, because if you are only blindfolded making the drop pass to the blue line, that might look a little robotic, and it is rather easy to defend against if the defense will know in advance that they are only playing that drop pass to the blue line. So keep the threat and unpredictability on. And then this also relates to utilizing the blue line, so you need to have a clear picture of what kind of formation and shape are you trying to establish on the field once you get the ball rolling in the blue line. And the most important directions on which the game should continue are, from my standpoint, the center of the pitch, which is the biggest scoring angle, and then the opposite side width, because you need to have that opposite side width in some form or fashion in play at all times. The game side width, of course, will be the narrowest angle. If you're only jamming the ball back to where it came from, that is the narrowest, because the defensive team has organized themselves into that corner of the field, and the play is coming from that side. So if you only jam the ball right back over there, you will be back on pressure. So it is important to sort of decrease the pressure and move the ball for a bit to those freer sides. Then moving the ball horizontally is a really important factor as well. Like I said earlier, that you need to be able to shift the direction of the ball in sort of to control the pressure, because the opposition wants to have a pressure that they want. You need to be able to break the pressure and be able to control them. Start to move the opposition's team from one side to another, because every formation wants to cut down the center, that there is no space right over there. If you can pass the ball in the horizontal plane of the field, they have to chase up. They have to shift their positionings, and by doing so, you are able to increase the spaces and gaps between the defending players and the spaces around any singular defender right over there in the field. So you are finding gaps where you can shoot directly if they are organized in a bad fashion, or then you are moving the ball around just for the sake of opening the gaps and increasing the spaces in those areas that you want to go on later on. And then you need to be able to utilize all sides of the field. Sometimes if you move the ball only in the blue line, like wide center, that can create space. But if you are only doing that, you are a one-tricked pony and very easy to defend against. Sometimes you need to pass the ball back to the deep areas, then drive again behind the goal and then pass. To get the opposition's defensive unit to move all around the pitch, to each and every side of the pitch. And by doing so, you will find more open passing lanes, time windows and spaces to the absolute core of the defense. But if you only are able to progress into this point, you are only circulating the ball in those outer flanks, which is not a direct scoring chance. So you need to be able to progress from this step way more deeper into more goal scoring contributing stuff. Then, like we said in the beginning of this video and those previous videos that were handling the game opening phases, you need to have rotations in everything you do with the ball. You cannot just stick, for example, in the offensive zone to that 1-3-1 formation. You need to be able to shift the positionings. You need to be able to empty and fill some desired spaces, and you need to have in your mind what are the spaces that you're trying to empty and fill again. Sort of where in the field are you trying to drill more space that you can utilize? That needs to be crystal clear. One player takes the initiative and moves away, and another one fills that space. Those cannot be done only solo, that the players are recognizing spaces and moving all around. There needs to be a clear, agreed, clarified principle, and you need to train that in your training sessions to get that clarity into the picture. And for example, in this picture, this is just a one rotation model. A player that had the ball in the wide side areas passed the ball to the bottom player, then cut without the ball to the center, and another one fills that space. So you will create and increase the space in the wide side pockets by doing this. This is just a one rotation, a rather used one, but you need to decide what rotations fit to your team and what sort of rotations you can create to your team. And there is a huge variety of what kind of rotations those can be, but you need to have a little innovation on that and think, what new could I bring to our game? And then forcing those defenders into their knees. So you want to, in addition to all the circulating and moving the ball around the pitch and making those rotations, you need to have some scoring and driving threat also in the play. So only by circulating and running around the pitch, you will create some scoring chances. But the difference is, if you're only doing those, the defenders can stick quite high in their playing position, which means that their body position and their leg positioning is quite stiff and high. You want to be able to drop the defenders into their knees, which means that you need to have some shooting threat to drive within the formation, and by doing so, their knee angles will be more bent. And if they are more bent, they are almost lunging or almost squatting right over there, and that is very consuming to do. So one way to do that would be, like in this picture, that one player drives from the width to the core and then starts to force the defenders onto their knees. And you can, if you have a good shooting threat, you can force them to block your shot, and you can get attention of many blockers and defenders to your player and your shot. So try to figure out ways on how you can drive and force in some way or fashion those defensive players to bend their knees. If their knees are never bent, it is way easier for them to conserve their energy and be energetic throughout the game on defending. If you can get them little squatting, that will get some head of steam out of them. And then to those cutting passes, in addition to all the circulating and rotating and getting the guys into their knees on that defense, those cutting passes come into play. Because if it is only about that attackers without the ball are running around the pitch and people are driving and challenging with the ball, that contributes to scoring by quite a bit. But if you want to add up to that even more, you need to be able to find different directioned cutting passes to the core, to the best goal scoring areas. And those directions might be to the central direction, a shorter pass there, a horizontal wide pass, or a diagonal pass. But you need to be able to figure out what cutting passes fit to the abilities of my team and sort of to the behavior and actions that my players can do in the best way out of all these options. And who are the players you want to free with these? You need to have on your mind that who are you playing those scoring chances to. And in this picture, we have an example where the team is playing a horizontal long pass in the offensive zone offense. Yet I need to remind you that you need plenty of space and find the right time window to do these with the right balance, and then you are able to contribute on goal scoring by playing these horizontal passes. But into each of those directions, you need to find the cutting passes to get a full threat on. And in this picture, we have, just to clarify, two different options of passes that can be played. Quite similar picture and positioning in both of these pictures or examples. But where they are aiming to pass is totally different. In the left hand side, you can see that there is this momentary 1-3-1 formation, and the center player is tying up the player in the center, so they need to take care of that, and that creates space for the diagonal pass. So in the left hand side, you see that the player is playing that diagonal pass that is going towards opposing team's goal into the width direction in the field. And in the right hand side picture, you see a short pass played to the center. So all of these should be found in good offensive zone offense. And then to the last sentence of that longer list that we had in the beginning, creating those momentary 2 versus 1 situations. This is just to clarify that defending is becoming increasingly 5 times 1 versus 1 situation. If the team defending can have their will at all times, they want to find that 1 versus 1 matchup to each and every player. So you need to be able to get rid of that when you are attacking. You need to be able to form these momentary 2 versus 1 situations, and a great offensive zone offense is able to consistently move around the players and rotate and create those momentary 2 versus 1 situations. There is a huge variety of ways how you can do that, and you can do these against every single one of those defenders, but you need to have planned and clarified that what is your aim here. Against who of those defenders are you trying to get that 2 versus 1 momentary to appear? So you are bringing 2 players for a moment, playing against a 1 defensive player, and how are you gonna form these within your playing system? What sort of way and against who should you form these 2 versus 1s for a moment to get the best out of your individuals? Okay guys, that was it for today. In today's video, I think that this is one of the most important topics if you want to win good floorball games. So offensive zone offense needs to be rather good. But I wanted to leave some air in these examples that you can form those examples that fit to your team and your club perfectly according to your team's strengths. So if this was a good video, please like the video, share this video to your teammates or colleagues or to your players if you are a coach, and make people subscribe to the channel so they can keep up to content like this. And we are on our socials. Don't hesitate ever to ask anything about floorball. But hey, thank you. Bye.